Okay, it's time for the cone. Once again, I'm going to recommend that you guys begin the habit of using a number 2 pencil when you want something to be lighter and using the ebony pencil for your shading. On the right side of the screen, you'll see the photograph again if you're at the right spot on the PowerSchool page. And you can see how the shading goes again from light to dark, same direction of the light source. Light source is coming from here. We've got our cast shadow out this way. Again, we have a blended value scale going from light to dark across the page. Below that photograph though, do you guys see the diagram where essentially an artist has chunked this cone into a sort of segmented value scale instead of a blended value scale? And they've even numbered it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. This is to help you understand that when you shade a cone, you can't do it like this. I get this a lot where kids give me the shape of the cone and then they start shading and they shade straight up and down like they did on their cylinder. That doesn't make sense on a cone. The shading needs to go from the bottom, it's wider here, and it tapers and gets narrower and narrower and narrower to the very tip. So if I were to only look at this top spot, if I zoomed in with a magnifying glass, I would still see a full value scale of white to black. And down here, I just have a bigger value scale of white to black. So that's the trick here, is we have to taper our shading from wider down here and narrower as it gets to the top. Again, same concept, so I'm going to use the side of my pencil. I've told you I'm heavy-handed. If you are light-handed, you might prefer to start on the light side. I like to start on my dark side, and I'm going to work that shading. I very lightly left those little grid lines for myself to help me remember how wide my shading needs to be near the bottom. But it still needs to blend, so don't get carried away filling those chunks in because I don't want a segmented looking cone. It needs to look smooth, okay? So working down here. Notice I've got kind of a mess at the bottom. I will go fix it in a second. I'm going to go back and darken. I don't think I made it dark enough to begin with. It's really narrow up here and it's really wide down this way. And then I need that to blend. Another habit I see is kids tend to curve their pencil like this. Do your best to try to keep your lines straight as you're shading, so maybe work a little slower. To clean up down here, I'm going to do smaller motion with the tip of my pencil. I want to make sure that I don't really see my pencil strokes, but I want to fill that in. It can't have white area and we can't have scribbles. Okay, and again, take that pinky finger and give it a little blending, smooth it out. Go back in, make something darker if it's not dark enough. Cast shadow, just like on your cylinder, we have the bottom of the shape here. At the lowest point is where I typically tell my students to start their shadow from. If you have room on your paper, you want to try to give me a cone-shaped shadow. If I could use my imagination, somewhere back in here is the back side of my cone, so I'm going to pull my shadow from that direction. And I didn't really leave myself enough room for a perfect cast shadow. This should be black. I call it muscle black because you should be pushing hard, use your muscles, and press with that ebony pencil to give yourself a dark shadow. I also love to see you guys put just the littlest dark line under here because right where that shape meets the tabletop, it's casting the tiniest shadow. And just like before, I want a horizon line. Let's make sure always that our horizon line is higher than the bottom of our shape, because if this is sitting on the table, the horizon line can't be here. That means your cone is floating. It can't even be here because I know the back side of my cone is back in here somewhere. So my horizon line needs to be up here. To be on the safe side, just put it a little higher than maybe you think it should be. And there's the horizon line, and go ahead and shade in your background. Remember that this dark helps define this edge of that cone. Just by putting that shadowy stuff in the background, I'm giving myself an edge without giving myself an outline because we are not outlining. Okay? Go ahead and finish this up in your sketchbook.